All right. Number one, we have a radical on the left side of our equation. But we also have a plus 4 on the left side. So, what do we got to do?
Subtract 4.
Yeah, we got to get the radical isolated. Wendy, put that away, please. All right, some of us were forgetting that yesterday. So don't forget, you have to isolate the radical first before we get rid of that radical. Okay? Some of you were squaring right off the bat. Okay? So remember, isolate the variable first, and then we can square both sides. Okay? So I get 5x minus 1 on the left, and 49. And then from there on out, it should be pretty easy for you. And you should get, or should have gotten 10 for the first one. Yeah, okay? Don't forget that. Again, if you made mistakes, that's okay. Let's just make sure we eliminate those mistakes tomorrow. Right, Coli?
Yeah.
All right, number 2 is just like number 1, except instead of square root, it's the 4th root. So again, we have to isolate the 4th root first. So we have to add 1 first. Okay, so what do I have to do to both sides now? Raise them to the 4th power, right? Any questions so far? So Kennedy, what is the 4th root of 2x plus 4 to the 4th power? The 4th root of 2x plus 4 to the 4th power. Yeah. What do these two do to each other? Cancel. What's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4?
256.
Yeah, 256. Okay. Question. Again, from here on out, real easy, right?
Right.
Simple. So what's the answer? 126. All right. Question. Too much chatter going on. Let's stay focused. All right. This should be easy for us. So some of us have not done so well on the first 2 quizzes this time week. Okay? So let's work on that summative grade. Okay, this one's a little different. What's different about this one?
radicals on one side.
There's two radicals on one side. So, since it's equal to 0, what makes this a lot easier is to do what? Add the second one over, so you got one on each side. Now, I still would do that. Get one of them isolated, okay? So, even if this wasn't a 0, if it was a 1, anything else, but I think it's gonna be a 0 tomorrow too. But if it isn't, you could still handle it. Okay, so now I have the cube root of something on each side. So what am I going to do to both sides? What's it called? Cube them, right? So when I cube them, what happens to the cube root? It goes away, right? Right, Kennedy? So I get 2x minus 12 equals x minus 9. That was pretty easy, right? You see that? Now, if that's a number besides 0 tomorrow, okay? You're going to be cubing something or squaring something, whatever it is. So you're going to have like 1 plus, the cube root of x plus minus 9 times 1 plus, or I guess it would be 1 plus. It's a 1, okay? Hopefully it'll be a 0 tomorrow, right?
Yeah, can you show us how to do that?
You can't do that?
No.
Andrew, you?
No, I can't do it.
You couldn't? So you get x equals 3 for that. Does that work? What's 2 times 3? Minus 12. Negative 6, right? What's 3 minus 9? Negative 6. Will the cube root of negative 6 minus the cube root of negative 6 equal 0? Yeah, they're the same thing, aren't they? If I subtract the same thing from itself, something from itself, I'll get 0, won't I? Okay. And it's okay to do this cube root of a negative having an odd index there, right? All right, so if you had this, let's say, you had like 1 plus x minus 9, you'd have to do it like this. And then you'd get some messy stuff. But you just would FOIL it. Okay? What's first? 1. What's outside? 1 times that, right? What's inside? 1 times that, isn't it? And what's last? What's the square root of x minus 9 squared? X minus 9, right? So then we get this. X, and then minus 8 plus 2 of these, right? So then what would you have to do? The other side's whatever, it's no more radical. But there's still a radical on the right now. What would you have to do? No. What did we do in the first two? You have to isolate the radical again, right? So we'd have to, take the x over, add the 8 over, do what with the 2? divide it, isolate that square root of x minus 9, and then what? Square both sides. So you'd be doing the thing twice, because you had two radicals you had to get rid of. So tomorrow it's probably going to be much easier than that and be a 0. Okay? So you don't have to do all that. All right, number 4. This one, the radical is already isolated, so what can I do right away? Well, before you square both sides, which you end up foiling, yeah. Okay, so we're going to square, but remember, when you square a binomial, it means this. Some of you were forgetting that yesterday. Okay, some of you just did x squared plus 9. You got 2 of the 3 terms, right? All right, so I have 8x plus 17 on the left. Then first is x squared, outside is 3x, inside is 3x, and last is 9. So some of us were forgetting the 2 3x's. So don't forget about that tomorrow. Since it's a quadratic, an x squared, and there isn't an x squared on both sides, so I have to set it equal to 0 and solve the quadratic. So I get 0, x squared. 3 plus 3 is 6, minus 8 is a negative 2x, and 9 minus 17 is a negative 8. What's that factor to? X, negative 4, and positive 2, right? What are the two answers?
4 and negative 0.
4 and negative 2. Do they both work? Jordan says yes. I think she's right. Let's check to make sure. What's 8 times 4? 32. What's 32 plus 17? 49. What's the square root of 49? 7. What's 4 plus 3? 7. So that works, right? What's 8 times negative 2? Negative 16 plus 17. Positive 1. What's the square root of 1? 1. What's negative 2 plus 3? That's positive 1, right? So they both work. So we checked them, and they both work. So check them. All right. 5's just like 4. We can just square both sides right away because the radical is already isolated on the left side here. So we're going to square them. Okay, so the left side when I square it is just negative x plus 24. All right, and remember, first is x squared. When we FOIL, outside is negative 4x, inside is negative 4x, and last is positive 16. So now what, Scott? Yep. Move that 24 over. Anything else? So what do I do with it? Not divide. No? Taking that whole thing. We're not taking this, the negative sign. We're taking the whole x. So we're going to add it. So we got 0 because those cancel. we got x squared. 4 minus negative 4 is negative 8, plus 1 is a negative 7. And 16 minus 24 is a negative 8. What are the factors that work for that one? Negative 8 and positive 1. So Grace, what are my two answers?
8 and negative.
Good. Do they both work? I heard a no, so let's check them. Negative 8 plus 24 is positive 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. Is that equal to 8 minus 4? That's 4 also, right? So the 8 works. Minus a negative 1 makes, two negatives is a positive. What's 1 plus 24? 25. What's the square root? 5. Does that equal negative 1 minus 4? Which is negative 5. Are they equal? No. So that doesn't work. Just the 8. Right, Coli?
Yeah. Bone saw. No bone saws.
Good job.
I got it right.
I hope you got it right.
Huh?
All right. The last two are inequalities. Wendy, what have I told you?
Sorry.
Sorry's not going to cut it anymore. I'm tired of it. Phones do not need to be out while I'm teaching. It's not that important. You can wait a few minutes before you got to put your face in that thing. Half of you didn't do, or more than half of you didn't listen yesterday when we went over this. There's two answers when it's less than, or less than or equal to. And a lot of you just gave me one answer. We got the radical isolated, just like it was equals. Okay, nothing changes. When you square both sides, you get this. And you just subtract 3. And you get x is less than or equal to 33. And a lot of you had that, which is good. But what is the radicand that x plus 3 not allowed to be? Negative. So you have to figure out what numbers keep it from being negative. So you write x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. All numbers 0 or bigger are not negative, right? And you saw that little inequality. So those are the two answers. Usually we write it like this, but if you don't, I'm not going to mark it off. All those values from negative 3 to positive 33 make that a true statement. When I substitute them in and take the square root, it will be less than or equal to 6. Any number that's not in that, less than negative 3 or greater than 33, you're going to get a number that's bigger than 6. Okay? If you go less than negative 2, you'll get some imaginary stuff. So don't forget, again, this is an easy problem. Don't forget to do that. All right, number 7 is like 1 and 2. What do we have to do first, Trent?
You want to isolate
Right, so what do I do first then to isolate?
Add 2.
Good. Add the 2. So then we'll square both sides now. Those not equals, sorry. So we get x minus 2 less or equal to 100. So then we add the 2 and we get the 102. Okay? Again, since it's less than or equal to, we're going to write x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0 to find the other part of our answer. So x is between 2 and 102. Don't forget about that tomorrow. That's easy part. It's not hard to do. Okay, if it was greater than, you don't have to do that second part. Okay? Questions? Simple, right? So let's make sure we do well tomorrow. Any questions? All right. Thanks.